Welcome back to Seeds of Impact. In our last episode, we chatted with Joe Byerly about how to use content marketing to position yourself as an expert in your industry. And today, we're diving into the topic of how to make an impact online through your website. Think of your website like your most reliable employee. It doesn't take vacations, it doesn't ask for a raise, it works for you 24/7. The only catch, if your website is not set up right, you can think of it as an employee that's just sleeping at the desk. I want you to walk away from this episode not only understanding the various reasons why your website matters, but also for you to have the confidence to utilize it to its full potential. As we talked about at the beginning of this season, you only have approximately 7 seconds to capture a user's attention when they visit your website for the first time, and that's if you're lucky. Unfortunately, whether we want to admit it or not, first impressions really matter in the digital space. When someone visits your website, they form an opinion about your brand almost instantly. So your website needs to start with a solid foundation. Now, for many businesses, your website is almost like a bridge between your branding and your marketing. And if your bridge isn't sturdy or appealing, you might lose potential clients and customers who don't even want to cross your bridge. Your website should be intuitive and engaging, both for first-time visitors and for regulars. If someone is already familiar with your brand, you might have more than 7 seconds to capture their attention and to keep them on your site. But when you're working on your website, when you are rebuilding it, we always want to start with the assumption that somebody who is coming to your website has no idea what they're encountering, has never visited your site before. I want to share a personal example of this principle in action. Now, I recently was looking for a new pair of shoes after completely wearing my last pair beyond repair. And one fun fact about me is that I am a bargain shopper all the way. If you ask me on any given day where I got my sweater, my t-shirt, the pair of shoes that I found, I am almost always going to tell you that I found it secondhand or got it at a thrift store. And I'm probably going to follow that up with some sort of anecdote about how I got an incredible deal or I found it on the back corner of the sale rack. Now, on top of that, whenever possible, I do try to shop from businesses that align with my values, and I will even pay a premium for products that are sustainable and ethically sourced and made. And I'm also still going to try to use a coupon I found online. So in my hunt for a new pair of shoes, I scoured the internet to find the exact color, the exact size, and the best sale. And I came across a website that honestly looked like it had not been changed since the internet had been born. I had never heard of the company and honestly was very skeptical of it because of how outdated it looked. Now, because I was scouring for a deal, I continued my digging and I looked on Google, I searched Reddit. I ended up discovering that the website was actually a small business in another state quite a ways away. And if I hadn't spent the extra time researching, I would have just written them off as another scam website. Now think back to the last time that you visited a website and it felt outdated or confusing. Maybe it was hard to navigate or the information was really buried deep within the site. How did that make you feel about the brand behind it? How your website is positioned affects more than just the website. It affects a customer's perception of your brand. It affects whether or not they make a purchase. And ultimately, your website also impacts your brand's perception, whether or not a new customer will make a sale, and just affects the entire length of the customer journey. You could move a piano simply by straining and lifting and putting your back into it. Or instead of risking injury, you could use shoulder straps, a dolly, get the right tools to get the piano from point A to point B. It's very similar when you're building a website. If you build your website with the right foundation, your website will do the heavy lifting for you and help move your customers toward a purchase faster. So what are the foundational pieces you need for a website to pull its weight? Before a website can convert, it needs to be visually appealing and clearly communicate. Let's start with your website's visual identity. We started this season talking about the importance of branding and how to build a memorable brand that resonates with your audience, because your brand is a foundational precursor to your website. I'll put a link in the description to an article that we wrote on the importance of building your brand before building your website. But I like to think of your business's website like a first date. Typically on a first date, you are going to put your best foot forward. You spend time picking out the right clothes, you pick the right location, and you want to leave a good first impression in order to build on the relationship. Typically, bad first impressions don't lead to second dates, and you want your website to leave a good first impression so that when somebody interacts with your website, they have a positive impression. It makes them excited when they see you on social media, when they see your ad come on TV. You want your users and your visitors to want to engage with you more. Every interaction that someone has with your brand should move them up what we call the engagement ladder. In brief, what that means is when someone engages with your brand, they build a deeper connection with you and a better relationship with your business. Now, the more they get to know your business, the more they should want to engage with your brand. It builds trust and increases the likelihood of them making a purchase. This, just like a relationship, takes time, and you can't just move somebody from being a passive viewer to an active supporter of your business without building that trust. Well, how does that relate to a website? Building a visually appealing website can shorten the engagement ladder and help to build trust with your brand faster. Making sure the colors, the photos, all the visual elements are right and are in alignment with your overall brand builds consistently and helps to establish additional trust instead of eroding the relationship with the customer. But the look of your website will only get you so far. While your website's aesthetic might get someone in the door, you don't want someone turning around, leaving your shop, and never making a purchase. Instead, the user experience beyond the visuals are equally, if not more important, to your website's foundation. Clarity is key when communicating with your audience, building that relationship, and engaging them in the marketing funnel, which we'll talk about later in the season. Communicating clearly on your website is about both the written message and the intuitive interaction and navigation, also known as UX or the user experience. When it comes to content writing for your website, there are a few things that you should keep in mind. First, simplicity goes a long way, especially on the homepage. Clearly stating who you serve, what problem you solve, and how someone can take the next step with your business is really crucial. Second, you should use the language that your audience is using and not just industry jargon that they might not understand. Third, keep SEO in mind, but don't go overboard, because search engine optimization tools can tell when you're just stuffing your copy full of the keywords and things you feel like are the right thing to put there. When we're talking about UX, we are talking about how somebody feels when they're interacting with your website. When it comes to UX, we are talking about how somebody feels when they interact with your website. This encompasses everything from design, from usability, accessibility, performance. And in today's digital landscape, it, believe it or not, is still possible to set yourself apart from the competition by creating a positive user experience. Good UX for a website can really look like a lot of things, but the essentials boil down to easy and intuitive navigation, properly linked buttons, clear calls to action, quick page loading times, and mobile responsiveness. Research has shown that well-structured websites that emphasize UX improve conversion rates. SEO tools also take UX into account when deciding whether or not to promote your content. Now, conversely, poor UX not only leads to frustration, but also causes potential customers to abandon your website before they even see what you have to offer. You can go beyond basic UX principles and incorporate accessibility into your website in order to align your business even more with your brand values. Now, there are web content accessibility guidelines, and depending on what region you're in, there are also legal requirements for this. But even simple changes such as adding alt text to your images and videos and ensuring that your website is easily navigable, even without a keyboard, can make a significant difference in the overall user experience. A website that accommodates users with disabilities not only broadens your audience, but it also demonstrates your commitment to inclusivity. In essence, prioritizing user experience on your website isn't just about aesthetics. It's about building a welcoming and efficient environment that encourages interaction and builds trust with your audience. We recommend having a second set of eyes on your website. You can download our website audit in the description, and then feel free to walk through it with our team, your team, or even ask a stranger next to you in the coffee shop. This will help you to evaluate any gaps that might be in your website that you weren't aware of before. And I also highly recommend installing various tools to track interaction and engagement on your website, which we call a heat map, to identify if there are any points of frustration or drop-offs on your website. Once those foundational pieces are in place, you can then focus your efforts on conversion. And in the next episode, I'm excited to be bringing on a guest who will touch on how to build business systems that complement your marketing and ensure that you aren't losing out on potential conversion opportunities. A beautifully designed website that is easy to navigate won't yield results if it lacks the mechanisms to convert visitors into customers and supporters and advocates. Conversion is about creating pathways for visitors to take action, whether that's through a form or making a donation, signing up for a newsletter. What steps does someone need to take to move from awareness of your company to action? This is called the customer journey, and your website is just one step of that journey. Think of your website as your digital salesperson. Just like a good salesperson knows how to guide a customer through to a purchase, your website should smoothly lead visitors as well toward taking some sort of action. To effectively drive conversions, let's walk through some of the key website elements that you might incorporate. The first is forms. Forms are essential tools for capturing leads and engaging with your audience. Whether it is a contact form, a newsletter sign up, a survey, forms allow you to gather really valuable information about your audience. Keep them as simple and user-friendly as possible by only asking for the information you really, truly need. For example, if you are collecting emails for a newsletter, ask someone for their name, their email, and maybe, if applicable, the company that they're working for. The easier you make it for the users to engage, the more likely they are to do so, and you'll increase your conversion rate. The second way to effectively drive conversions is through call to action buttons. CTAs are a compass that guide your visitors toward the next step in the customer journey, and they should be clear, compelling, and strategically placed throughout your site. Instead of using generic language like click here, consider action-oriented language that indicates value. For example, join our community, get your free guide, make a difference today. Whatever you choose, repeat that language on your call to action throughout your website to build consistency and reinforce your message. Make sure the buttons are visually appealing and actually work throughout your website. We've seen a number of websites where you go to click on the button and then it just takes you to a dead link. Consider placing the CTAs on your homepage, in your blog posts, and pair them with pictures in the content sections to really catch visitors at different points of their customer journey. The third way to increase conversions is through a donation button. Now, for nonprofits, having a prominent donation button on your homepage can make a world of a difference. This button is not just about visibility, though. It's also about creating a sense of urgency and evoking emotion. Phrases like "help us save lives" or "your gift matters" can really inspire people to contribute to your mission. Additionally, consider implementing a recurring donation option, which can encourage ongoing support from visitors without them needing to think about re-upping it every month. The fourth is through e-commerce capabilities. If you are selling products or services, you want to make sure that the e-commerce experience is seamless. This includes things like easy navigation throughout the product categories, clear product descriptions, and a straightforward checkout process. Consider offering a guest checkout option for the people who don't feel comfortable creating an account. Always reassure customers about the security of their transactions. A smooth purchasing process can significantly reduce abandoned cart rates and use this as an opportunity to build in cross-selling opportunities and upsells. Finally, if you are using e-commerce, build in systems that send an email to people who leave items in their cart for later. You might be thinking, Hannah, that is a ton of work, and you'd be right. It sounds overwhelming, and it can be a lot of work. You can contact our team at hello@maneimpact.com, and we would be happy to talk with you about how we can partner with your business to ensure that your website is truly converting and making the greatest impact. But I also want to share with you some quick wins that you can implement right away. The first is to run a speed test to check your website's performance using a tool like Google PageSpeed Insights. These tools can really highlight areas for improvement and help you optimize load times. Second, ask someone new to take a look at your business's website for 10 seconds. Once they've done that, ask them if they can repeat back to you who your business works with, what problem your business solves, and how someone can get the solution. Third is to find a button on your website, a call to action that isn't converting in quite the way you want to, and either add or revise the language of that button. This might be a button signing up for a newsletter, a donation, making a purchase, whatever you choose. Make sure that the button is prominent, clear, and compelling. If your website has the ability to run what we call an A/B test, I also recommend this for buttons where version A has one language and version B has different language, and comparing the two after the end of a trial and seeing which performed better in order to increase your conversion rates. Finally, if you haven't done so already, I highly recommend downloading our free website audit, which is linked in the description, to get some other ideas on ways that you can improve your website. In conclusion, your website can and should be your digital workforce. It doesn't operate in isolation. In order for it to truly work 24/7, you need to have other business and marketing systems in place to support it. In our next episode, we are going to explore some of these essential tools and systems that can help your website and your business to truly thrive. If you found this episode helpful, don't forget to share it with your network and subscribe today to get notified when the next episode drops. Thanks for being here, and I'll see you next time.